Good evening. I'm Angela with Siblings A&J Gardening. I told you all last week that my brother and I were both gonna tell you a little bit about how we first got started gardening together. Actually, it's been roughly 10 years ago, but as kids we used to have to help in the garden with our dad. My brother's gonna tell you how he got started doing it. Well, you just tell them what you want to say.
Well, she already told you how we got started. We had no choice but to help in the garden.
That's true.
And as over time, I couldn't stand it. But as I've gotten older, it's become a hobby of mine that my uncle and my father used to do, and my grandfather as well. But now we've taken it over, and this is what we're doing.
Well, tell them what you did with Grandpa, what you learned from Grandpa.
Well, I learned basically everything I learned from my uncle and my grandfather, but with my grandfather, we planted. Last year was the first year I planted potatoes, but I planted potatoes with my grandfather when I was a kid. And I said I would never plant potatoes again because it was too much work, especially digging them and hilling them. And if anybody that's planted potatoes, you know what I'm talking about.
Well, the first time last year he harvested the potatoes, and I really didn't know how they were planted and how that you had to dig them out of the ground like that. I didn't know. But this year I planted the sweet potatoes and he planted, well, actually we planted together the red and white potatoes. As you could see in the previous videos, they don't look like they're doing too well, but Jeffrey seems to think they'll come along. We'll definitely have something in the ground. We just don't know how big and large they'll be. When I was a kid, we did have to pull weeds and rocks in Daddy's garden, but I mostly helped my mother in the kitchen. I can remember helping her shell the peas and cut up tomatoes. I always help with the making of the green tomato chow chow. So I'm going to show you a jar of the green chow chow that I do make. It's right behind me, yeah. And I make it with hot and sweet and sour. Those are some of the things. And she would can the green beans too. And as I stated in a previous video, I'm going to try canning the green beans for the first time. I usually just freeze them because I'm kind of running out of time. And she would always make a squash casserole too, and I'm going to make a video on that, get my brother to help me on that one, because I kind of forget how she did it because I didn't eat it. I didn't like it at the time. I didn't like it until I got a little older.
And one thing about having a garden, if anybody that has a garden, sooner or later you learn how to cook the vegetables that you have in your garden. That's the whole purpose of a garden, is to feed your family and your friends, in my opinion.
Right. But that's a little bit about how we got started and what we do in the garden. We've planted, well, tell them what we planted.
Well, this year we planted, she already told you, white potatoes and sweet potatoes, cabbage, red and white onions, squash, zucchini, corn, green peppers, all forms of hot peppers, and I do have one Carolina Reaper plant, green beans, okra, and corn, eggplant, and that's it.
Yeah, we planted a variety of onions too. And as far as the cucumbers, I've planted a few of the pickling cucumbers and also the patio cucumbers. I really like those. Those are the ones that are smooth and a lot of people put in their salads. I also make a cucumber salad that Mama taught me how to make, sweet and sour and hot and savory. So if you like what you hear, once again, this is Siblings A&J. Oh, yeah, we also make a barbecue dip. If you don't know what dip is, it's different than barbecue sauce. You can explain the difference between the dip and a sauce. For the people that are true die-hard smokers, especially from the South, they'll know what we're talking about.
Well, barbecue dip is thinner, whereas barbecue sauce is thicker. And basically use your dip for pulled pork, pulled mutton, and pretty much with this dip, you can dip anything you would choose to like in it. But this is what I grew up on. When people talk about barbecue sauce, I don't want that thick stuff. I want the thin stuff.
And it's Clement's homemade barbecue sauce. We make hickory and mesquite. But once again, this is Siblings A&J. If you like what you hear and see, please like and subscribe and share. And for those of you that have already liked and shared and subscribed, thank you so much. We're just starting out and trying to build a following. Be blessed.